ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello to one very new edition of the program, as we go live, a special edition on the Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Great Radio Africa, connected with its own friends, relatives, and loved ones. Welcome to Great Radio Africa, as we go live. We're coming your way. Listen to this. Just before then, we always had two things. Want to give you praise, want to give you honor. We want to magnify your name. We're grateful to you. You've been there for us. You woke us up this morning. You've given us the strength to be here. Get to apologize for you and our country, Liberia. We pray for Liberia. We pray for President White. Honorable Joseph Yamakweka. We pray for the outgoing President, Mr. George Weah, and the people of Liberia. God, protect and bless our country. In the name of Jesus, we have given thanks. Folks, some heard the name, some heard people talk about it. Well, you've gotten the opportunity tonight to match the name, face, and voice. Mastermind, the doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone, the good voice of radio, the broadcast commissioner. He has traveled extensively in Europe, America, and parts of Africa, from Detroit to North Dakota, Philadelphia, with open arms. We came to the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Yours truly. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely the stronger than the lion. Africa's media do is extraordinary. I'm not Garley. Welcome to the show. Well, folks, tonight I just want to say a big thank you to you. You might just want to share the video because your friends are not our friends, and so we can together have a great time tonight. Beautiful Saturday night. I'd like to say hi to Muhammad Sawaji. How you doing, my brother? I also like to say hi to Haji Tiger Fishu. What's up, my brother? Sanu Kenneth, Raymond Clark, and the rest of the folks. Begin sharing the video. Invite more friends. Let's together have a good time tonight. I'd like to go now. So welcome to my friend and brother, Jesse Face. Title Face. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, Ashford, and I just also want to use this time to invite um, uh, listeners and viewers of Beach Radio to another explosive episode of this edition. Thank you.
It's Saturday evening, man. How's your Saturday going so far, my brother?
Well, I mean, making preparations for Sunday and the Thanksgiving that's ahead of us. Um, that's basically what I've been working on.
Okay. Did you, in fact, work today, or you just decided to take the day off and get ready for?
No, it's now my schedule, so no work today.
Okay, my man. So, what do you have in store for the folks tonight, man? I go on to be talking about reconciliation. And what does it mean when we say reconciliation? A reconciliation, uh, meaning that whatever was done to our country for the past 6 years, we should let it go. Or reconciliation meaning what? What is the meaning of the reconciliation?
Um, I mean, the thing is, on the last program, those who were advocating for reconciliation, because I was not. Because how do you operationalize what reconciliation is? Does it mean that we're going to be playing jingle on the radio and television, and people be hugging each other in the street, kumbaya? And what would the political leaders be doing? What, going to church service? So exactly how do you operationalize that? What does it mean when you say there will be we need to heal the bridges? Politics is politics. At the end of the day, um, yeah, the campaigning was tough. Okay, and there were acrimonies here and there, but at the end of the day, what we saw once the vote was cast. In fact, after people cast their votes, the rest of everything else became very peaceful. People cast their vote and left from the scene. And then once the results were released, and George Weah had an opportunity to come in and say that and concede, that was it. So what kind of bridges need to be built after that. um Moral bridges, I don't know what kind of bridges they are, so when those who've been advocating, I mean, it's important for Liberians to come together, and it is important to understand that Liberians will come together. We have always been a united nation, even in conflict. Okay, so what I think is the process of rebuilding Liberia that matters more at this point. Because unless someone can convince me of what that reconciliation is in terms of practical applicability, I don't see it. I mean, Liberians are already reconciled that George Weah needed to go and he's gone and people are at peace.
And Max, I'd like to say hello. Are you joining us tonight from Liberia? Please unmute your device.
As you can see from my background, yes,
Okay. Welcome to the show, my brother. How's Liberia tonight?
as cool and calm. Thank you so much. Let me say a big thank you to my brother on the other end. My brother is okay. Um, I just, my light is still blinking. I hope the LEC will continue to stay on. But we are good. Celebration coming all over the place. A lot of noises around the corners and the communities.
I mean, in this day and age, for 6 years, we're still struggling with electricity in
It's
Liberia.
great. A pleasure to be here.
Okay, now we're talking reconciliation, my man. What do you understand when somebody says reconciliation? I hope Wayne Johnson.
But don't forget,
I
at the
hope
same time, we are also selling electricity to others.
good. Am I coming out clear now? Edo, somebody said my Wayne Johnson said I was coming in broken. Can you hear me loud and clear, please? Please give me the thumbs up if you can hear me loud and clear now. Okay, I just got a confirmation from Face that he can hear me loud and clear.
Mm.
Okay, Max Bakayo, tell us about
Okay,
your
yeah.
sense of understanding when you hear reconciliation. Is a reconciliation in bringing the both parties together? Because there was a highly competitive election, and now the country is deeply divided. Now, when you hear reconciliation, are they saying talk to both sides, bring the people together, but you still have to go after folks who are alleged criminals?
Well, relatively reconciliation, as far as society is concerned, is always a good virtue to undertake it when communities are divided, when there are issues that will spark up and then it brings about division. And in that process, you have to have a leader that will actually take the bull by the horn to bring people together. Yes, I want to agree with you. Liberia is politically due to the way we do our politics. Currently, we are hugely divided. In fact, in comparison, from Samuel Doe to perhaps up to Charles Taylor's time, which has
Okay, as we wait for Max to rejoin us, Idatus, hello to welcome to the show. We're talking reconciliation here. I'm pretty sure you and Dr. Fakes will have different views in terms of how you both perceive reconciliation to be. What are your thoughts?
Greetings to all of you wonderful Liberians out there, Liberia in the diaspora as well. Let's be very clear. Reconciliation simply means bringing people together after an argument or a disagreement. Okay? These elections that were just held, it is clear that it was so toxic because of divergent views and personalities who were contesting for this high office. And in that process, people hurt each other, relationships were destroyed, and that's what happened. There were those who said we'll be neutral, rightly so, because they felt there that the two candidates did not match their political philosophy. So they decided to be neutral. You listen, I mean, when you watch Facebook, you read the commentaries, people were hurt so much to the point where they didn't want to participate in these elections. You have seditions who are currently, quite frankly, disappointed that they lost. So when you really look at what happened, a good leader will begin the process of, bringing us back together. All of us argue from the perspective of the greater good of the country. But at the same time, now there were people who lost and there were people who won. So a good leader now begins to bring us back together for the greater good of the nation. Don't forget, these elections are with an estimate of 30,000 votes separating the two. So we are evenly divided on this matter. So that is why now it's important for us to bring people together to think Liberia, love Liberia, build Liberia. Let it be very clear. We are not saying that in the midst of reconciliation, people should not be held economically accountable for crimes committed under the law. This is not what we're saying at all when we talk about reconciliation. But every leader, there are those who will not come on board, but there are some who will come on board for the greater good of the country. So when I talk reconciliation, that is the perspective I'm coming with. Thank you.
And Dr. Fisk, do you see that the same way? Did you hear or see that the same way?
I mean, look, let's understand something. So you just had an election. I don't know an election process that is with all acrimony. I've never seen it before, because the essence of politics is the ability to control resources, the ability to have complete control over the power of coercion as commander in chief. So, people have to wrestle that kind of power away from another person. So I've not seen one that is with all acrimony, unless, of course, you have the socialist system where you have the Politburo coming in to make a selection of who is going to head. Even in Rome, when with the election of the Pope, okay, there was a time that some Pope from Ghana or whatsoever was supposed to be elected, and there was acrimony even then. So people were even divided. So whenever there's a fight for scarce resources, there will always be acrimony. So what make Liberia one special? Well, I don't know, and people are yet to define that. Now let's look at the concept reconciliation within the context of Liberia. So you have 2 million people voting, and I mean some people had differences and some people did not. So let's talk about those that had differences and what do we do? Do we put jingle on the air for them? Do we have what church 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 conferences across the country? Do we have what de-traumatization centers? When we talk about reconciliation, what exactly, bringing people together? What operationalize that? What does it mean? Are we talking about jingles? Are we talking about kumbaya, where the political leaders get the more we get together, sing one song, and the people are supposed to see it? Because reconciliation is a speech that George Weah made, for instance. Okay, where he called on the seditions and the Weahtians to be hopeful of a 2029 election. That's enough reconciliation. Because if people want to hold on to things, there's nothing you can do as an individual or as an institution to say you must reconcile with somebody. Even in America in the 21st century, some people still continue to be racist, even though they're supposed to be a post-racial society. So I don't understand this whole thing about, we need to set aside a special agenda because people got hurt and they need to heal. So if they need to heal, which is what the definition of reconciliation seems to be sounding like, what exactly is the process that we're going to use? We're going to church, jingle, what is it?
Well, Max, reconciliation forms part of holding people accountable for the leadership in the past 6 years. Do you agree with that?
Uh, but I would tend to agree with it, but this is it. First of all, uh, let me differ with my brother as well with respect to um, not agreeing that there's this need for reconciliation. It's we don't have to go that path. I I don't agree with that because I know even after 2017, we had a serious problem in terms of the community being divided, family being divided, and unfortunately, the peace ambassador, the president, before even winning the presidency, he was a peace ambassador under the leadership of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for at least so many long time. And unfortunately, after he won the election, we also saw that period of electioneering very toxic, and in fact, the insults and you know family falling apart was also high on the agenda. Unfortunately,
Okay. We seem to be having trouble, a problem here with our brother Max from Liberia. You just listened to Dr. Fisk. I don't know if you feel any different from what he just said.
Sure. So, we all live in America here, right? We see how deeply divided this nation became after Donald Trump's victory. It was so terrible in the sense where we saw that division heightened when he lost the elections. People advanced at the House and potentially risk their own lives when they attack members of Congress because of that
I
deep
saw.
division. So, what did Joe Biden do when he came to power? He was able to speak to the nation, to reshape the way we saw our politics, or see our politics rather, for the greater good of the country. So, when we're talking about reconciliation, we're not saying, do jingles among several other things. Listen, the socioeconomic and political advancement of Liberia is the collective responsibility of every Liberian. So make no mistake, when the Honorable Joseph Boyka assumes office, you will have seditionists who are Liberians working in the government. You have members who also supported ANC working with government. You don't want them to become saboteurs within the government in the advancement of policies that will change lives for the greater good of the nation. So that is why that leader models that graciousness to help us see the larger vision by encouraging us to say, listen, in the political market space of ideas, we've competed. Somebody won. It's time to move on. And that's why people look up to the president as the leader, as the healer of the nation. And if anyone wants to, to not acknowledge the sense of disenchantedness that came out of our politics, and to bring us together as one people under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, you'll be making a very sad mistake. We're not saying waste all of your time doing that. There will be individuals who will not buy into and remain outside and still disgruntled. But at the same time, we want to facilitate a message that helps every Liberian realize that Liberia is all we have. Elections are over. It's okay to be a constructive opposition as the beauty of democracy, but we need to hear that unity. Now, to my brother and friend, Dr. Fitz, he stated very clearly, thus acknowledging the acrimonious sentiment that resulted from these
Mhm,
elections. But
mhm,
these are Liberians who were at each other for the
mhm,
highest office. So
mhm,
now that it has been resolved by that decision, President
mhm,
George Weah, according to Dr. Fisk, came and stated,
mhm,
listen, let's wait for 2029, we could get better. Don't jump in the streets. As I speak to you now, there are seditions, according to what I've heard, who have gotten in the streets, who are upset about the fact that the president conceded too early. These people also need to be brought on board with a united voice from our incoming president-elect, Joseph Boyka, and an ongoing encouragement by George Weah, as he's still our president, to encourage his people to be more democratic and accepting of these results to maintain the peace and stability of our nation. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a huge effort to do that, but just inspire the nation onto unity. Thank you.
Let me pick
Okay.
up on that. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry that I don't know whether it's from my end. The internet it keep dropping out. But this is it. I am not talking about um, a peace jamboree to be or conference to be established. But if you have a leader that will begin to speak about reconciliation, that will begin to acknowledge that yesterday something took place and it brought about division in family, in communities. And that leader happened to take those times and then always using a microphone, even by not bringing all of us under one umbrella to say we are having a conference, but rather by speeches also, it can make a huge difference. And this is what actually President George Weah failed to do during his presidency. I mean, we had a volatile society at the time before even he took power. And like I said at the onset, uh, I was here as usual. I was here for almost 2 months before the 2017 elections, and I saw a huge resentment within communities. And I've been to homes that families were divided. The children would be one side, the gun on the side of Weir, and the elderly, the father, the mother, they on the other ends of it. And that went on to the point that we had the elections. And those families, majority of them stayed divided up to the up to this point of the 6 year presidency of President George Weah. And the fact that the president, of course, uh, the message of peace and reconciliation was never in his mouth. So it also created an avenue where it have extended up to this point, getting into these elections that just ended, and that have been added upon. I know families here that are absolutely the parent. I mean, the children and the parent don't talk because the younger ones are behind the CDC. They don't talk. Now, how do you bring these people to understand the kind of ramification that comes along with it? It is the responsibility of the leader now, whether the outgoing leader or the incoming leader, to make sure that they take on they take on the message to the people. And that's exactly when the incoming president said on Joseph Boakai recently, when he made a statement and he talked about his government or their government being a government of inclusion, and the peace and reconciliation message started right there. And so I want to say here that we don't have to come on a we don't have to go to the you know maybe to go to Banga or go to any other place to say we all should come together under one umbrella. But I want the message of peace and reconciliation to be in it on the lips of our leaders, especially the incoming leaders, because the one that was there or the ones that were there filled us massively. I'd never heard anything of that nature on their lips, and this was so disappointing in terms of the way we preach our politics here. In the context of Liberia, let me tell you, if we don't do it, I am telling you, there are families here that are not going to eat a meal together just because uh, CDC have lost the election or Joseph Parker have won the election. Because
thank
of
you.
that, they're going to stay divided. And so we need peace and reconciliation messages.
And that's the beauty of this show, where we see things differently. Doc,
Yeah, and you see, so that's why I started from the beginning by setting out the premise of asking, so what exactly does, when we operationalize reconciliation, what exactly do we mean? So what it has boiled down to is just giving speeches, for going heaven's sake. I mean, every time Joseph Boakai or any kind of prominent person who's an elected official gets up to speak, he's supposed to be able to speak to the peace. You don't need an election to do that. That's your moral obligation to do it all the time. Okay. But we need to understand that in the absence of an election, society is still a divided entity. That is, if you study, read about the state of nature, you understand that every individual is a law unto himself, and becomes coercive against the neighbor. And in the absence of a feudal system of protection, what you have is that you have the state that comes in to bring in peace and stability. Okay, so we don't need an election to understand that the society is divided. All elections do is that they heighten the acrimony that currently exists within society. Is it the election that made the Southeasterners to be very tribal, where almost 90% voted for George Weah? No, it's not the election that made that. They were inherently tribal. The election just brought out that nature. Okay, just exposed what was already there. So I just want us to understand that once the government is inaugurated, there's a process of reconstruction. Okay, and embedded in that process of reconstruction are the messages of peace and unity, which can be reinforced by action. In other words, create jobs for the people, build roads that will lead to the southeast, so that those people who are just locked up and think one way from the rest of the nation will understand, no, Liberia is bigger than just the southeast, and you guys need to, you know, get on board, not to look at somebody who is not doing the right thing and say, well, because he's from the southeast, we're going to put him there. Okay, so I'm glad, and I still stand to my point, and wish Reverend Idatus has acknowledged that acrimony will always exist. Elections are not. But if we say we reconciliation, then we need to understand that operationally speaking, as he just said and was reinforced by the personality from Liberia, that all it entails is just people coming and just speaking. Isn't it the responsibility of government? So government in itself, the presence of government, okay, provides a semblance of peace, especially if the government is functional. So that's what I want to say.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Fisk. I want to welcome Dr. Artemus W. Gay. Are you still in Liberia, Dr. Gay? You will have to please unmute your device.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Ashford, and the rest of the guys here. I'm in back in Chicago.
Oh, you're
I mean,
back in shout out.
yeah.
You were in Liberia for the elections, my brother. Tell us how did it go? And I know prior to these elections, you were very instrumental in trying to get this government, now that will soon be gone, uh, to pay attention to the over 200 years of existence, and some attempted listening, they didn't listen, and we went further to allow Ghana to uh, take the praise, and you sent containers full of trucks, and you couldn't get them out. Something that were meant for charity. And we're discussing reconciliation tonight with this new government. How do you tie in uh, your experience with the outgoing government to the one that is coming in?
Well, thank you so much, my brother Ashford, Reverend Ade, and Dr. Fisk. Thank you all for keeping this going. And my brother, Master Kim Mixer, am I right? Yeah, thank you all
That's
so
correct.
much.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad to be part of this project, and you just basically help to bring to the entire ensure reconciliation on board. Part of reconciliation, in fact, there are many forms of reconciliation, and I always start first with the one that you and I always can never forget: accounting. Because when Reverend Ade decided to reconcile his book in the church, it means in Dr. Fix, it means that we are basically knowing what we had financially and how it was used. For me, the word reconciliation first started with economics, with accounting. That is why that was so beautiful in accounting to say, let's reconcile the book. And sometimes it becomes painful. Reconcile what book? It means what we were to share or to receive as a revenue. What happened to it? And that's the reason most of our conflicts are fought is on the economic, and I heard or most of you talking about that. The resources, how are they used? So that's why economically accounting, we ask to reconcile the book. But it means a lot in the literature of reconciliation. Most time people think reconciliation is about let bygone be bygone. No, it is about holding people accountable, and that is why our work, our dissertation, and that's why Northwestern University and Liberian Truth and Reconciliation did a reconciliation program based on my PhD dissertation in 2007 and 8, 9, and 10. But we are a country that does not believe in paying attention to history. And you already said that. So part of that work in our dissertation that we did in our book was to look back at our history and say what and how did we get here. It's also reconciling history, because oftentimes we lie, people make a myth, they make a legendary stories, and in the end, if you don't fact check them, you realize they create confusion. So yes, reconciliation means a lot. It is not a one-sided story. It is not a one-dimensional project. It has so many multifaceted or way of looking at it, whether through economics, through history, through social interaction. So it's a broad topic. Just want to lay that up here.
Idatus, when you reconcile the country by starting with accountability, meaning you audit, because some people took up positions without declaring what they had before coming into power. Today, the pockets are deeper. So when you start to go after those things and retrieve some of those things and get the economy turning, because right now I tell you, I was just going through the social media before coming to the show tonight, and there are citizens who are saying they are establishing the Man Coast Association. They say they're going to be costing Man Coast for 6 years, just how it was done to them during the soon outgoing administration. And you can clearly see that they are bitter, they're angry, and they're just waiting for this government to take up the power. Then they'll have to go after them. So when you begin your administration with holding people accountable, getting things in place, audit the previous government, get started on a good footing, then that alone can form part of the reconciliation process.
Right. Ashford, it was not by coincidence that the entire Southeast voted for Donald Trump. I mean, for George Weah.
Yeah.
The entire Southeast.
Right.
That tells you we have a divided country. That tells you that the peace and stability of our country, the work is not over since after the war. It's a peace building process. That says a lot. That entire region tremendously massacre the opponent. It tells you that means a lot. We have work to do. A smart leader will recognize that. Look, the word accountability and reconciliation, you will only be holding a select few. But the citizens voted in the Southeast for George Weah in spite of declaring evidence that since his 6 years, tremendous development has not touched that region. So what does that tell you? That something is missing, that we need a social cohesion. And your politics as a leader will determine whether or not we remain a divided country as opposed to a united country for the greater good of the socio-economic and political advancement of the country. So make no mistake, elections are not solutions. It's an exercise. It's a means to starting a process. It's not a conclusion. So I would hope, and that is why the President-elect Joseph Imam-Boyka began his speech before these results were announced. He said he is looking forward to a government of inclusion.
You're free.
Again, we were just buffering. He said that very clearly that when we win, we allow the UP people to go and do opposition work to be to harness their opposition skills as if they aren't Liberians. That was toxic. We saw in our president's government the propaganda that many people in his government were hired from the southeast. We saw that. We saw that politics played out during the campaign. It tells you that we're divided. So for me, my definition of reconciliation is restoring the common message that brings us together for the greater good. And that is not without economic accountability. That is not without auditing. That is not without justice, persecution of those who took government's resources for their personal use. We're not saying that. It's in fact even better to do that. It is instrumental, but sociologically speaking, it's necessary for the social cohesion of the nation state. Thank you.
Well, Max, despite the concession speech of President Weah and most of his officials, were told citizens have taken to the streets in protest that the final numbers are not announced. The President-elect Boyka has not been announced by the NIC. So for that reason, they are protesting until they hear the final numbers. That allows to tell you and the rest of the country that we are deeply divided.
Sure, that's exactly so. In addition to what Andy just said, um, I I saw the actions last night. I was listening to radio. There's a particular radio station called Freedom FM. Um, I monitor them up to 1 hour. But what the callers were saying there, and mind you, all of the callers, those who listen to the radio or follow that station, are Occidentians. I am telling you, people were calling, men and women were calling, crying on the phone as if to say somebody died from them. I mean, bitter cries.
Hmm.
I could feel the pain. And some of them were casting blames on President George Weah. Why some of them were casting blames on uh, President Weah's lieutenants, because they misled the president shouldn't have listened to them. And some of them are calling their ages. I am 28. I am 27. What am I going to do for the next 6 years or so? And they're expressing anger and expressing frustration. Yes, but this is where we are now, Ashford. Uh, in the context of where we have come from and reaching to this point, if only President Weah, like as I said from the beginning, if only President Weah actually, when he came to power, uh, he was going to actually take a message of reconciliation and deal with it on a daily basis, it would have been okay. And I'm happy that uh, it's mentioned here that reconciliation, of course, it comes with accountability. But remember, by the time he came to power, why others were asking him, you know why? Before you take a step, ask the people that you are taking the power from to give you report, so that at least from there you'll be able to reach to start your blueprint to move forward. What did he say? I'm not going to do witch hunts here, so I'm not going to audit anybody. I'm only going to provide full protection to Madam Ellie Johnson Sirleaf and her family member or her children. And so even the missteps started from right there. Now, I thought we are now in a new political dispensation. And this particular one will be led by Honorable Joseph Boakai. I don't want anybody to not accept that the fact that he has already started preaching reconciliation messages. And I want to repeat this. We do not we do not need to go on a one roof to have a 2-3 days peace and reconciliation conference. We do not need that. But the blueprint that is being put forward now by this government in terms of development, that my brother just said over there, wherein development should come without choosing a particular region to start from also. And then from there, messages have to be going across. I am not going to stop this. In vernaculars, in language, in any language that anybody can understand here, then we will be moving forward. But I am so glad that this rescue mission government that is now being given birth to, the starting has been good because uh, those messages now that His Excellency Joseph Nyuma Walker, already delivered, have a great fruit in it. That if we actually listen well and take most of what he said already of late, then I think the process of healing and reconciling with one another has already begun. And perhaps we may not even work harder again to actually, get us back together. But once, actual NGOs, international NGOs, begin to, first of all, recognize Liberia and come back to Liberia, and then they begin to take our young men, our young women, employ them, not with the only 4 or 5 we have right now, because the last time before the election of 2017, we had 18.
Thank you.
By 2020, all of them pull out. At this time, we have about 4 or 5.
Dr.
So,
Face.
by virtue of that, empowerment, employment through empowerment can also bring about reconciliation. We can't rule that out, because when people are employed and they're making money, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think they have you will have to take that 2-3 minutes to go and for somebody else anyway.
Thank
So
you.
it's great. I think it's a good virtue that we shouldn't forget about reconciling with one another. We don't need to have conference, but we can continue to preach. Your platform here can continue to preach the
Thank you. Thank you,
messages.
Max. Thank you. Dr. Face. I think your device is muted, Dr. Face. Please unmute your device. We can hear you.
You got to restart.
Dr. Face, you want to go in and out because we can't hear you. Unmute the device, please. Dr. Face. Yeah. Okay. Okay, as we wait for Dr. Face to rejoin us, I will bring in Dr. Gay. Could you please unmute the device and begin to speak?
Well, I think this is a very, very appropriate topic. I tell you up front, you remind me of my days when I left you from Detroit and moved to Chicago to go to Northwestern, to go to Garrett, Medill, and in the African program African Studies at Northwestern. It was a beautiful thing, and Liberia was on my mind. You had a person like um, William Reno, a well-known professor of politics. Or there, they were people who had visited Liberia, saw the carnage of our country, and we were there. We were the first group of students to be trained by the Pew Fellowship into journalism, and we were there. That was way before we now know the Facebook. We used to have what we call FaceTime, not FaceTime, but some Facebook type of company. I've forgotten the name. And the aim was, how do we move this into technology and have us dealing with this issue? Think about this election that we just took place, 1985. election. We didn't see how the process was done. But here in 2023, this was basically in our face. We were
Mm.
all involved. That's how technology has helped us to reconcile our history. So that's why I said the word reconciliation means a whole lot. It is not one-sided, and we should understand it is in flux, and it has helped us in Liberia. Guess what? Ashford, I was in DC. We were to visit the State Department. The very person that we met at the State Department, the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, uh, Michael Hitley. It was his first trip to Liberia. He took the book, the very book today that Liberia refused to have as its bicentennial book. He read it, he took a copy, and he said, I've never been to Liberia. And I said, please don't forget the very person we are celebrating his history, the African prince, the formation of Liberia. Please help us to make sure that our election is credible. He was the one that took the message after Sierra Leone election and went to Liberia and told the Liberian NEC and the government that no one should mess with the Liberian election because there will be consequences. It was Michael that went there because why? He was reconciling our history based on what he knew and our relationship with this great nation of America. So I'm saying this to proffer here that the issue of reconciliation should not be taken for granted. Because if we, as Reverend Adi says, and as Dr. Fix is saying here, and Max, if we don't account for our resources and think let bygone be bygone, we are in for George Weah mistake and missteps. Because it was exactly what he did today, and his apologists were quick to say, "Oh, he's a peace ambassador. We don't. No, you got to shake the bush." And exactly what we expect Omen Bwaka that we supported in this campaign. I'm on record, just like I was on record very early on November 14, 2018, that George Weah will be a one-term president for failing to declare his asset. Because you can't come to a country and claim that you're a multi-millionaire, and we know you were not. It was almost a slap in our faces to say, look, whether you know your book, it doesn't matter. I'm a millionaire, and you accept it. That, for me, was a disrespect to the people of Liberia. And today, this is where we are. So
Dr. Fisk, on Monday, after NEG announces the winner, uh, who will obviously be President-elect Boycott, he will speak to the nation. When George Weah spoke 6 years ago, he said one of the first things that he came to do was to protect the outgoing president and her family. You never saw George Weah audit past officials. He never reshuffled the cabinet for 6 years. What do we expect from the incoming president as you tie that into reconciliation?
Are you getting me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So, it's very good that the doctor has given a generic definition. It's called a generic definition of what any concept is, okay? So you can extend it to something called its logical conclusion. So that's what I was saying. That's what I've always been saying. So when we talk about reconciliation, operationally speaking, what do we exactly mean? Especially if we try to deconstruct it from accountability, auditing the people that have been stealing the money for the last 6 years and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's no way you can break up the two. I mean, it's basically all one. One is subsumed within the other. Okay, in other words, reconciliation is part of the process of governance, which is what I've said. So it's just good he tried to, uh, amp up it a little bit and give a generic definition to talk about economic reconciliation or social reconciliation. Even in medicine, you have medication reconciliation. So, I mean, everywhere you basically find it. Okay. So just coming to your specific question, Mr. Boaka has been in the power of the corridors of power for a very long time. Mr. Boaka understand the political etiquette that comes with being within uh, um, the office of the president or its proximity. Okay, so in some instances, people try to give George Weah the benefit of the doubt. They say he was a novice, and so he didn't see the essence of trying to audit government or trying to have people declare their assets or making sure that institutions were functional. Um, if Mr. Boaka does any of these things, then in my view, it's deliberate. Because why? He's been in government long enough to know where the pitfalls are. Okay. And for him and the caliber of people around him, in as much as I'm now a Unity Party partisan, I don't want to project or speculate wrongly. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt just because most of the people that will be ushered into government are people who's supposed to know how government is supposed to function. Which is why I said yesterday, I said, look, Bwaka needs to understand that the reason why he was elected is because there's something like Brimpo wanted that Ellie did not give, so they turned to Weah. Weah also did not give, and now they are turning to him. And the number one thing that like Brimpo wanted are jobs. Jobs. All that thing, all reconciliated. People want to be able to put food on the table for their children. They don't want a situation where you have a patrimonial system of government where somebody abrogates it to himself as some kind of king to dip into his pocket, and his pocket at the national coffers now to be paying people children WIAC fees. In other words, insulting the nation by disrespecting parents and taking that responsibility for them and rather abrogating it to the president. So you don't want all those kinds of things happening. So it just makes sense that as far as Mr. Boyka trying to make sure that things are reconciled, that piece, I said before we are left office, I always told his supporters, I say, Liberia is not peaceful. Liberia is quiet. Peace is when you can go to bed knowing that you wake up the next morning and find food to eat and be able to take care of responsibility. That's peace. If you don't have that, you don't have peace. So the country has been quiet. It has not been peaceful. And the elections show it that the Liberians are continue to remain despondent because the average Liberian cannot go to bed and tell you the next morning they know, how they will take care of their children. So, which is why I wanted to say yesterday in the microphone cut off. The biggest hurdle that the government needs to be able to surmount within the first 100 days is to generate a program that will lead to massive job employment. Okay, so that thing about international community need to come in now. No, forget about international community. You have a population of 5 million people, and using rice as a commodity alone, Liberia is losing to China and India in excess of $5 million every month. Not every year, every month. And if you do the times zero by 10, that's $5 billion. Okay, that Liberia is losing. And so, how will continue to complain that the country is catching hard time, yet and still we see what we need to do. It's like a big dream that's happening. You say, okay, with this particular dream here, IMF say the government cannot plug the dream. The condo IMF only private citizens can plug the dream. Government can create the enabling environment. In other words, government can make sure that the land around the dream is okay. But as far as plugging that dream, the $5 billion plus that is leaving Liberia every year and going to India and China, according to the IMF, the government cannot be involved. Meanwhile, in America, the government is directly involved in creating public sector job in employment, which is why most Liberians, if you been watching Facebook lately, they say, oh, only educated people will get job in government. No, only educated people, if government create public sector jobs, then it will not be limited to only people who are educated. And people will understand that when it comes to job creation, it's not only about plugging people into different ministries, government agencies, and civil service institutions. It goes beyond that. And if we think small, we don't do what is necessary for our people because IMF said once upon a time that it's impossible. then Joseph Boakai may end up being another one-term president, and the despondence will even increase and become worse.
Thank you. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is Ashford Garley live on Brace Radio Africa. We are coming to you live from the Twin Cities of Minnesota. And of course, I'm your host, Ashford Garley, with an array of panelists here tonight. At this time, at 8:01, let us go to the telephone line. The number to call is 267-248-5295. We are discussing reconciliation following the just ended election, presidential run-up election in Liberia. We have a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Tell us your name.
Hi, Ashford. This is Marion. I'm calling you from Canada.
Marion, how you doing?
I
Welcome to
don't
the
know
show,
if
my sister.
I'm good. I don't know if you want me to call my full name. My name is Marion Campbell. I am from Nimba,
Okay.
and I'm crying.
Okay, go ahead. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you on tonight.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to express my thanks and appreciation to all of you that are in studio tonight, and especially to you, Ashford, who has been pushing this agenda for Ambassador Boakai to become president. I was very excited the other day when you gave your support to him. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I I really want to say this to. I am not looking at the entire country reconciliation. As I stand, I cut across two counties because I'm crying and I'm from Nimba. I'm looking at the reconciliation also between the Crown and between Grand Leader and Nimba.
Mhm.
Yes. So I'm about to put I'm organizing my organization, and I want to preach that reconciliatory. I want to begin that process and see who can join me so that the people from Nimba and the people from Grand Leader can live as one people like before. Because I just feel that there's something that is missing. We are so divided. And I'm calling upon, I want to use this medium to call upon my Crown people, my Gio people, my Mano people, my Medico people, my Twi people, to please come together so that we can live like one family again. Grand Leader and Nimba, we are Dodi. And in Gio is Deku, so I'm begging everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marion, and thanks for calling.
For
Please,
all of the effort.
thank
And
you, sir.
thanks to everybody in the studio tonight.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, we have another caller on the line, and this caller is from Minnesota. The last four digits of your number, 3383. Please tell us your name.
Hey, hi, actually, my name is Eddie Carley. But anyway, I'm traveling. Personally, I'm in Dallas, so I'm watching the program from my truck. But you know what? I just want to say, man, we got some good educated people, in Liberia, especially your pioneers. You actually articulate the issues. But from my standpoint, I think when it comes to Liberia, reconciliation right now with the new government coming in power, I think like one of the partners here is to open the public sector, right? Once you create job, once you give a hungry man a job and he can afford for his family, look, things will be normal. Everybody gonna come together. They're gonna be a kumbaya situation in Liberia. That's the first thing. So I would say let's give this government at least 180 days. Within 180 days, let them try to open the public sector. Let them try to bring some kind of employment that would give the young men and young women in Liberia the ability to work and earn for themselves. Look, I would tell you, if that happens, we don't need to sit on the table to do that kumbaya story, and say, oh, no, let back on be back on. Once a hungry man has some food to eat, he's happy. We will be okay. The nation will reconcile once there is job and everybody can afford and everybody can make money and be satisfied. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Myron spoke to the opening statement from Bidatus that the entire Southeast uh, is in the crisis with the Midwestern counties. You can clearly see that the country is divided. And our brother here just spoke to the turf of Dr. Fisk that get the wheel of economy running get the people jobs, so that they can fix the bread and butter issue. When those things begin to happen, you don't have to have a town hall meeting to talk about reconciliation. From the other end, they have started the reconciliatory a process already. We saw the letter today from Len Eugene Nangbe, taking responsibility for the loss in these elections. He went further to say it was the entire executive at the National Election Commission that was against them. That's why they lost the election. And at this junction, following the college, I will bring in the Reverend Idatu Sadi, then we'll go to Max, Dr. Gay, and of course, Dr. Fisk.
Ashford, quite frankly, I don't think any of us were wrong here. Some of us are emphasizing the short-term goal, right? The short-term goal of reconciliation and the long-term goal. So I certainly agree that we need to create jobs, but we cannot dismiss the reality that our elections was very passionate, and it is the responsibility of both leaders to continue to simmer down the rhetoric and inspire hope and unity around the greater good of Liberia. One thing I also admire about the Unity Party, Jeremiah Kun was in Grand Jide, and he met some elders, and he recognized the priority of reconciling Nimba and Grand Jide. And in that meeting, this is a public information on his page. In that meeting, as I watched, he said, we are looking for a time where Grand Jide and Nimba can come together as one. We are in fact one. He said, and his proposal is, for example, that there will be a land in Grand Jide that will be designated for the elders of Nimba. And there will be land in Nimba County that will be designated for the elders of Grand Jide, where they can take retreat and engage one another again. Because why? They were one before the geographic demarcation. He even stated when he engaged those elders, he said, listen, the reason why we and the people of Lofa, we are not in conflict
30 seconds,
is
please.
because they were on the western side. But we who are close will always fight. But at the end of the day, we are one. So the reconciliation process started under this campaign when Jeremiah Cohn visited Ranjide, and he spoke to the people there that they need to come together as one, consistent with their geographic proximity and the fact that they've had cultural interrelational marriages.
Thank you. Thank you, Idatus. Before we go to Max, can we just squeeze in this caller? I believe he or she is calling from Delaware. Hello, caller. Tell us your name.
Yeah, good evening, John. My name is Dennis Kamar calling from Minnesota. I want to say hi to your studio guests. I listened to the call that I just got a minute call. But if I'm making a recommendation or if I'll giving my advice to the incoming president, the first thing I think we should do is having a state funeral because we lost a lot of people during this regime. The four auditors, the three boys, Mr. Scoper, Bate Yiswa, we have to have a state funeral. And that's where I think that we are government made a mistake. Because all those people that died, while there were 2 or 3 that died during the Eddie Johnson government, we didn't have any state funeral. And remember, guys, even our late President Doe, up to now, I don't think that the country has ever had a state funeral for Samuel Doe. And those are things that we need to take and we need to do before we do anything. And that's where the problem is coming from. And besides that, unity during the state funeral is where reconciliation, everything starts from. To bring everybody, not only Grenada and Emmanuel, the entire country. We need to come together and rebuild our country. We need to come together as Liberians. I met a lady the other day who were afraid to tell me her tribe. Though she lived in America, but she was afraid to tell me that she's from Grand Jide.
Can I ask the caller a question before he leaves?
And as we were talking, I could see that grief in her. but she didn't want to tell me. And I had to tell her that, look, when I was coming up, living in Logan Town, my father rent a house for a Virginia. We lived in a house. I'll tell you this, during the war, they almost killed me and my father for a crime for a Virginia. For this man, he tripped me. Because we had it we put it in our house, we put it in a splinter. And people in the community went to Prince Johnson and said, oh, the guys will come people in this house. But it was God that kept those people because we put them, we put rest back over them, we covered them. They used to do everything up there. I used to throw their mess away. I would cook, we gave them food until our Ecomo came. Those people will release the people.
God bless you, my brother. Hold on.
Can I ask a question before
hold
he
on,
leaves?
Dr. Fisk has a question for you just before you drop the line. Go ahead, Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, I don't usually ask questions, but you raised up a very important issue. So I just have two in one question. In addition to Samuel Doe that did not have a burial ground, we know that 13 government officials were executed, publicly executed, and they said they will kill them because of corruption. And people jubilated in the streets. And up until now, their children and their children's children still feel that pain. What do you say about that? And what is even worse, up until now, people don't want to recognize them as being a tribe in Liberia. What do you say about including a state funeral for those people and recognizing that it is about time that the Congo people be recognized as a 17th tribe in Liberia? What do you say about those things?
From the Doe regime up to the present regime, all those that died, we're going to have a state funeral because Liberia is cursed, and the only way Liberia will be delivered until Liberia can come, until Liberia can take that step. The curse is over Liberia. We need to pray. That's why I'm disappointed in some Christians, in some pastors in Liberia. But they are not putting the country first, but they are putting interest. Liberia need to have a state funeral. If we can't have a state funeral, we will continue to go through what we're going through. The problem about Liberia is not about leaders.
So I ask you the second question, the second part of the question.
We are not putting God first in that nation. We have paid our bite from God, and that
could you address the second question?
For those time,
could you address?
After you kill the people, there was no funeral for them.
Could you address the second question?
He wants you to address the second question.
The second question.
Okay.
So you're coming in and out, sir. Could you please speak through the microphone? Hello?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, go ahead. Can you please answer the second question?
Okay. What's the second question?
The second question is including Congo people as a tribe, which would be 17 tribes of Liberia rather than 16. Because up until now, people still call Congo people not citizens. What do you say about that?
And that's one of the problems in Liberia. We love the tribalism. There is no Congo, there is no parent, there is no lover. We all are Liberian. Let us forget about this tribalism. Because that was what brought the war in Liberia, and we still living in that tribalism. Now look what happened.
Are you saying there's no Pele? There's no Pele?
I'm on the Mali, so I will not vote. I will not vote for this person. I will not vote for this person. We need to put all that aside and move on. This is about time we move the country forward. Instead of voting for who is the person, what tribe you come from, your Buddha person, your Mana person, your Medi person, we should put all this aside.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. We have
let's forget the past.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a 980 number. The last 4 digits of your number is 5236. Tell us your name.
My name is Edwin Freeman. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Welcome to the show, Edwin. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, ASHFORD. I'm a regular follower of your show. I'm very much interested in this topic tonight, and thank you to the platform guest. One thing I want to talk about reconciliation. Reconciliation is very good in every scenario, especially for the situation of our country. But with reconciliation, our country, I believe now, need to hold people accountable, need to hold people responsible, and we need to set precedent in that country. Because if we set precedent in that country where I know that if I go and waste debt on Broad Street, I have to pay $1,000 or I go to jail for 2 days, the next person will not do it. So we need precedents. Every country in the world that developed, let's go to Latin America, Chile, um, Fujimuru, go to another country where you have Austin Pinochet. All those countries, even Argentina, up to now around the world, some of those countries that have developed have become developed countries. People are still persecuting people for things that they did in centuries. One they are caught. So Liberia, we look at from trouble time. You touch one, you touch all. Though we are all the same. Ellen Kim, we all the same. Though we are Kim, we are all related. We cannot develop Nigeria in that kind of mindset. We need to hold people accountable. We need to set a precedent. President have to take home. The cause of due prudence have to take over. While we reconcile, yes, it is true, but we need to tell people that the law take its course, the rule of law. And President-elect Joe Biden are always talking about the rule of law because if the rule of law takes its course, I think we all will live together. What is important, the economy will play a vital role because if our school has a job where they can send their children to school, what is the problem for that children? I don't think nobody will be there trying to
Thank
go
you.
and create problems
Thank you,
somewhere
my
or they
brother.
will go and stand on Broad Street because the man knows that he has to go to work at the end of the day to get $2 or 3 cents. He won't take that time to go and stay in the street where he will not get paid or go and become a beggar. So, in my opinion, to summarize, I believe that we need to set precedent. We need accountability, hold people responsible, and all that will entangle with reconciliation. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Max, former President Charles Taylor said one of the things that he was not able to do is to reconcile the country. And of course, when President Taylor took over, our economy was in the toilet. Ellen came and we started getting a little bit of traction. Up to now, we're still not able to reconcile the country. I think this is something big, something huge. My uncle, my late uncle, built a home in Nimba County, downtown to be precise. And today, I don't see a safe going there to look at the house. In fact, I don't even know where the home is located. So my sister Maron said the problem between the Mindan and the Crown, the Gil and the Crown, we've got to solve that problem. The entire Southeast, Grand Gila to be precise, voted for George Weah because of President-elect affiliation with Prince Johnson. They still have that thing in the head, in the mind. This has happened 30 years ago. When do we put this behind us and move our country forward? But before you speak to that, let me just squeeze in Mr. Herbert Fisk. Mr. Fisk, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Ashford. Yes, I was listening, and sorry I came late, but just to piggyback on what you guys are talking about, one of the things I modeled about Paul Kagame was or is when the genocide happened and after he got elected, one of the things that he started to do in the country every time that time of the year when it comes to the genocide, when that time reaches, in fact, what he did to the hero tribes or whatever it is you want to call them. And they had a meeting and there was a huge reconciliation. Now, moving forward, every time that time of the year comes in our country, they shut the country down completely. No businesses is open. It's a time of national prayer. You can follow it. That's something they do in Rwanda. So all tribes, all people, all Christians, Muslims, or whatever it is, everybody come together and they have what you call a national day of prayer. And they do it for an entire week. You know what I'm saying? And they reach out, they break bread, and they do so many things. You guys should follow it. It's another thing Liberia need to model after that. You know, based on what the doctor said, it's true that Liberia actually needs to, you understand, incorporate Congo people as a tribe because Congo people has always been there from day one. You understand? I don't have to go through the history. You guys already know the history. So if you have a group of people who have already been there, already, you know, been through blood, sweat, and tears, and like I said, the history is there. I don't see why not, you know. But thank you.
Thank you. We'll take this last caller, and that would do it for calls. We have our 614 number. Tell us your name, please.
Hello, my name is Blair. I'm calling you from Australia.
Welcome to the show. You're live on the radio. Go ahead and make your point, please.
Okay, thank you, the giant. I want to say hello to all of your panelists on the show. Great topic. I'm really loving it. So I just thought it was so cool to just give my 1 or 2 points. With speaking of reconciliation, which is a very good thing to do for the country as a leader, I supported Ambassador Boake from here. My family are back home. They all voted for him as well. So I'm from the Nimba Belt. So for me, I will really encourage Ambassador Boake to reconcile the country, every one of us. Because like one of the callers said, the Crown and the Nimbanians, let me just say the Grandjudians and the Nimbanians, we are all the same. We are not different people. So I would prefer reconciliation. When we speak of job, job creation is a very good thing because everywhere you live, if you're not working, you can't provide for your family. But that's a long-term goal as I see it. Because if job could, connect people or reconcile people, I mean, we all live in the West. We see how people go after each other, but we're still working. We're still earning money. So I feel reconciliation would be a vibrant thing to do for as a leader for Ambassador Boake. In my own opinion, it is good. And then one caller came out to say Liberia is cursed. I'm not taking that away from him, but I just want him to know that Liberia is not cursed. Liberia is a blessed country. But it just, we always electing wrong people, wrong leaders. I know there was war that was fought in our country. Killings went on, but Liberia is not a cursed country. We should stop cursing our own country. Liberia is blessed. But we just need to get it right for people to get a job done for us. We know they kill people, which we do understand. So I just want Ambassador Boake for me to reconcile us Liberians. It don't have to be the whole world coming together, the whole Liberians, but I mean, they can get few stakeholders from every county that they will go on the Palawa Hut and reconcile, Liberians. That for me, that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you, my sister from Australia. Dr. Gay.
Yes, thank you. I mean, this topic is great, and I just want to piggyback on all of the panelists here. We are on point to push this topic, and I want to just use this historical fact. When Ellen Johnson Sirleaf appointed Mr. Weir as her peace ambassador, I applied for that position. And the purpose of my application and was through Dr. Eugene Shannon. He was visiting his daughter here when she was going to the University of Chicago's Booth School. And I told him why. I say the entire project started out of my dissertation. And I said, President Weir does not mean, then Ambassador Weir will not understand what reconciliation is about. And if anyone wants to get him there, it was only because of his celebratory status. But he will not understand the literature of reconciliation. I wrote a letter, and I'm going to publish it soon. There was a letter I wrote to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf office. I said, because reconciliation means a lot of stuff. And I think we all capture that in our deliberation tonight. You can do reconciliation by reconciling with Eugene Nangwe and Samuel Tue economically. You can reconcile our ethnic makeup. And I like that to fix what you said. I don't use the word tribes. I use the word ethnic groups. In fact, I do believe Liberia has more than 19 ethnic groups. The Fulanis, for example, are more than the Sapos. There are almost about 40,000 Fulani born in Liberia. Then there are also the we people, the we. We don't talk about them as if they are a sub-ethnic group. So again, these are things we brought about to help in the reconciliation project. This is basically the geographical reconciliation. Who are we as a people? So I'm raising this fact that reconciliation is not a one-stop shop issue. It is multifaceted, and they all can be done within the greater good of our country. Doing the economic side, doing Eugene Nangwe and all the ministers and President Weah for not declaring an asset, that is a form of reconciliation. And then all of us reconciling our history, our ethnic makeup, and then we can move that. And then even a war crime. I want to see Prince Johnson going to Walter Allison's family and say, I was responsible. The doctrine of responsibility is on me because she came to my place and I was involved with it. It is very important. I don't care whether he was supporting Joseph Waka. If we want to fix this country, we should do the reconciliation as a wholesome project. And in the end, we can bring a sense of a common good for our country. And then lastly, let me finish up on this. If we are to push our country further, it will be very important that memorials are set up. Mr. Weah built a park, but there's nothing there to remember those 13 men who were killed there. I go to Liberia almost every 2 months. If you see where President Talbot and his family were killed, that place is nothing but a dumb site. Central Street is the second oldest grave site in Africa for people of African American descent, basically the repatriated Africans. That place should be a tourism site. That should be able to raise money for our very young men and women to.
And I think we talked about it when we were in DC.
Yes, exactly. There we go. Thank you. That's the second oldest African repatriated grave site in the world. Is in Liberia. And the first is in Sierra Leone, and is lying in waste with Jefferson Koji as a city mayor who doesn't even know his function. That is a sense of reconciliation right there. How do we fix that place to memorialize it and bring in some economic goods to that place? I'll rest on this for now.
Idatus, you will take to the microphone following this caller. Hello, caller.
Yeah, as for it's been again Daniel from Minnesota.
Okay,
I just listened to the caller. I mean to your studio guest. I was asking whether we don't have better. We have better in Liberia. We go to Ireland. The Congo people, they are part of Liberia. They are Liberians. There is no way that you can separate the Congo from Liberia. We are all Liberians. But the point I was trying to make here, let us start asking people about tribe, your tribe. If you can speak Mandara, then I can rent room to you. If you can speak Mandara, I can do this for you. Let us start all those things and move forward the country.
Thank you.
And two, another point I want to share quickly for 1 minute. I listened to you during his press conference that if CDC win the election, there will be no unity party member that will work in the government. And this going to our incoming president. The governor is coming up, whether you are seditious, as long as you are qualified for the job, we should give you the job. They shouldn't do what CDC were doing, taking people out of job because they are not unity party for participating. The unity party shouldn't do it. We are all Liberian. If the person is qualified for the job,
thank you, my
let
brother.
them give them the job. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. And the president elect emphasized on that already during the campaign trail, where you would be hired based on competence, and he has a thing in place where each cabinet minister will have to represent one of the, each of the 15 political subdivisions. But I will allow Idatus to land on that in addition to his point.
Actually, I think we are all kind of on the same page. Some of us are emphasizing short-term goals and long-term goals. We are not saying that you can do both. We can walk and chew gum. And that is why in the Ambassador Porcus, I mean, in the President elect's vision, he listed 6 pillars. And all of those pillars incorporates what we're talking here today: economic empowerment, financial stability, restoring confidence in our financial statement. I mean, in our financial system. Pillar number 6, he wants to institute the anti-corruption effort to be able to secure stolen wealth from the country. So all of these things are part of his vision for Liberia. So some of us just emphasized an immediate first step after election is to bring the people together around a common vision. Now, everybody will not come around the vision at the same time, but it has to be an ongoing message, not one of isolation, but inclusion, which was already started by the ambassador, Joseph Imam Boyka. I want to speak to this issue of tribalism. Tribalism is not a healthy approach in any nation, but it's okay to have a tribal diversity. The fact that we are a nation state is a reflection of our geopolitical identity as a people, and that is why we're called Liberians. The danger is that when our sense of tribalism trumps our sense of nationalism and patriotism for the socio-economic good of the country. So it's okay to be proud. It's okay to be proud of your ethnicity or your ethnic grouping. What is not okay is you want when you use that diversity as a weapon against the national good of the country, that compromises our sense of patriotism. Thank you.
Okay, with that, folks, we like to say a big thanks to all of you. We will go around the room now and begin taking closing statements as we conclude the show tonight. Starting up with, no, I will allow Dr. Fisk to have the last word, then we'll begin taking closing statements. Dr. Fisk?
Thank you, Ashwa. So first thing first, let me talk about um you mentioned Dr. Reverend, well, the president-elect Abuakai, um saying that he's going to bring people based on competence or experience. How does he operationalize that? Let me just help by suggesting something to the government. What the government can do is the government can have each minister of government come up with a proposal for 100-day or developmental agenda in their specific area. So, Minister of Finance, Minister of Economic Planning, telling you what can I do to create jobs. Minister of Finance, how can I bring in revenue? Minister of Agriculture, within 90 days, this is this specific plan, and then that becomes the benchmark to measure the success. So we cannot just say experience without trying to define what we mean by that. And then let's talk about tribalism. I will join Reverend Datis Ado because Reverend Adi, because when the caller mentioned, he said, we are Liberians and we should not talk about tribe. No, it's very important to talk about tribe. What is bad to do is to use tribe as a weapon, which is what has happened consistently against the Congo people. Okay, so this is why I was very specific. I asked you, do you accept the fact that Congo people are natives of Liberia? Because we're not talking about people that are born 1821, we're talking about people that are born in recent times. And people still refer to them as being non-Liberians. And I even learned something tonight that even Fula people as citizens have always been citizens of that country. Okay. And then the final point, as far as reconciliation is concerned, like I said, um, generically defined by the doctor, it can mean just about anything. Okay, is it an eclectic term? Okay, so let's not try to, skew it to mean something very specific. It's like sitting down under the palaver hut when in fact, it is more ambiguous than that. And let's try to pursue all of those areas in the interest of peace and development for Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, folks, we'll begin taking closing statements. I'd like to say a big thanks to all of you for taking the time of your busy schedule just to form part of the show tonight. Popo, Crew Boy, and Edwin Freeman, Abu Bebito Fofana, mon frère, bonsoir. Ça fait longtemps. I also like to say hi to Eugene Harry. Harry, how you doing? Adioha Omo is in the building. Nima David, Emmanuel Tolion, Nathaniel Debo is also here. Henry Youngo. The Reverend Walter D. Gooden the second is in the building. Elvis, how you all doing tonight? Again, could you please give us your closing statement? Give us 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. This is a wonderful show. Thank you, Ash, for coming with this election on our back. This is great. I want to use this historical reconciliation to memorialize three names tonight. William Tamba, a Kisi young man who was enslaved at what we now know as Providence Island. William David, a bastard boy who was captured from St. John River. David Noah, a cruel young man who was taken to Sierra Leone to use as one of the young guys to ferry enslaved Africans from what we now know as the Mesurado River. These three young men, today, most of us don't know their story. They will be the one that will lead the expedition of the three white men, Burgess and Aries, to what we now know today as Liberia. Three young men enslaved, captured, what we now know today as Providence and St. Paul River. They will help to form what we now know today as the Creole language in Sierra Leone. That's a Liberian story. That's a story of a reconciliation right there. I mentioned that interestingly because April 7, 2024, Monrovia will be 200 years old when the name Monrovia was given to that place. There was a story that we would try to tell for the bicentennial, and the Liberian governor under George Weah took it for granted and wasted a wonderful story to reconcile our country. Thank you, Dr. Fix, for mentioning. I do believe repatriated Africans, liberated Africans that came to Liberia should be formed as an ethnic group. Whatever name we designate for them, that name should be there because they play an important part in what today we know as Liberia. In fact, today, this election I just took place is the 70th election taking place in the entire Africa. The 70th. The first election took place on the ship. I'm not using this because of my background in historical reconciliation. So I want to also use this occasion to let you know that in 2017, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf on Nation Building Index scored C- when George Weah graded her a B+. Today, George Weah leaving office. I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, so I can give him grade based on facts. George Weah scored a D-. He did a very poor job in reconciling Liberia, and he said it himself. So I was not wrong to grade him and the CDC government a D-. And President Bouaka elect, we will be on his back because this country, 200 plus years now, and must get it right. Today, Nigeria, Ghana, other countries are looking at us to have this good transition taking place. Because why? The very liberated Africans and repatriated Africans set that goal, and we should never forget their role in the formation of Liberia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gade, for that very splendid closing of yours. We'll now go to the Reverend Idatu Zadeh for his closing statement.
Well, I just want to thank all of the Liberians who are watching us tonight and many of you panelists. ASHFORD, I'm pretty much simple. Reconciliation is having the heart of forgiveness as a people, and also our government holding people accountable for crimes that are economic or warlike. But it is not just the government's responsibility to exercise this goal. Every Liberian, all of us, ought to be champions of reconciliation. What do I mean? ASHFORD, when I meet my fellow Liberian, and he says, oh, my name is Joe, I'm from Grand Jide, I'm from Nimba, I'm from Lofa. What is your reaction to him? Do you see him as a brother from your country and celebrate him that he's a Liberian? Or do you go back to what may have happened in the past and therefore built a wall So reconciliation is just not the responsibility of the government. It's all of us' responsibility. Even if people hurt us, we must be willing to forgive and we must be willing to accept whether or not they say sorry. Yes, those who have committed crimes against humanity ought to face justice. Those who have committed economic crimes ought to face justice. But that's the political instrument of reconciliation, the fundamental social cohesion of our country. Why it is true our leaders, both President-elect Joseph Yuman Boyka and President George Weah, are still charged with the responsibility to calm down the rhetoric that may potentially cause us to go back into places of darkness. So it is my call tonight that all of us must begin to champion this cause of reconciliation because Liberia is the country we know. It must be a nation by all costs, under God, indivisible. For united we stand, divided we fall. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this junction, we want to bring in Dr. Fisk as he gives us his closing statement. Dr. Fisk.
Thank you, Ashford. So let's see it this way. Society in itself is not necessarily cohesive. Okay. And all the election in Liberia did was to expose the divisions that have always been existing. Okay. So minus the election, there have always been problems. Okay. In the state of nature, it is even elevated. So all I'm saying is that the reconciliation is something that has always been ongoing for people that want to seek peace. And like the Reverend said, it's not necessarily something that is only at the governmental level, but within civil society that should occur. Um, I just want to give a special shout out to Dr. Gay. He really changed. He really elevated the discussion this evening. There are a lot of learning points that were projected into these discussions, and I appreciate that very highly. Um, Long story short, we shouldn't fool ourselves to think that most of the Liberians that voted for Joseph Boakai did not understand that he was there for 12 years or that he had been in government and in some instances not delivered. A lot of people voted because they were despondent that George Weah failed them. So Joseph Boakai, in as much as reconciliation is important, it is also important to audit the government. It is also important to make sure that people have jobs for them to live responsible lives. So he needs an agenda, a robust jobs creation agenda. And I think the very first area he can target for that is the creation of factories. I continue to say that because it's only factories that will be able to target Liberian agriculture. There's only factories that will be able to saturate Liberia with food and make Liberia self-sufficient. It is only factories that will be able to make sure that the $5 million plus that Liberia is losing because we are buying rice from China and India will get to stay in that country. It is about time that we turn this whole thing around and make it work in the interest of Liberia and Liberians, meaning every ethnic group, including the Congo people who don't call themselves who they are because, as far as they're concerned, they have not been designated as an ethnic group. So we need to work as Liberians, and what it means is that everybody should be seen as a stakeholder and be fully involved. Thank you.
At this time, as we go home tonight, we want to extend our condolences to the family of the late Dr. Jones Dopo. That Dopo was a professor at the Cardinal University. He hails from Western Liberia, Nema County. He passed away earlier today, and he's known for the song that was produced many, many years ago. The song that was called, that is known to be Sweet Sweet Cassava Leaf. You take it from Paul today, Maria will take it from you tomorrow, and power is like cruel candle equate to capsize. So let us take a listen to the song that was produced by Dr. Jones Dopo as we head home tonight.
sweet kiss our little. No fuck yeah. Sweet kiss our liver. Now go along. You take it from Peter today, Paul will take it from you tomorrow, mama. Sweet, living is sweet, oh. Where the rich or poor. Why not pray for long fellow? You can pray for long life. As long as they live, you know, the better we grow. Power is fun, oh. It can make you heavy. It's just like a volcano. They pray to capsize. Sweet is our liver. Not for go along.
Okay, that's the voice of the late Dr. Jones Dopo. Again, our condolences to his family. Well, folks, with that said, please, as always, allow me to borrow the words of the wise man. You know, don't go chasing success, according to Frank Sinatra. Uh, he said the best revenge is massive success. And he went further to say, become massively successful. That's how you become even. And then in another turn from our own man, the Godfather himself, he says, seek to become something of value and have somebody pay for it. In other words, be somebody that is competitive. Go, if you can't find something to do, either go out and create it and make yourself valuable. With that said, folks, tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises because there's no second chance to make that first impression. What people think about you and the possibility for your dreams, none of your business. Let them worry about it. Okay? Somebody' opinions of you does not have to become your reality. Yours truly, he doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than the lion. Africa's media doobie doo extraordinary. Jurassic took by Jiggy, Zeban Loda, and Jacomo Chilaji, to Jirai, Ajuadi Wapo. Bolu Blai, Padiconia, Bolu see, Basi Plu, Second we are Yours truly, ask for the giant garland. Have a good night.